Now, as some of you will know, the World Expo 2025, that's sometimes called the Universal Exhibition, it's currently underway in Osaka in Japan. It's a huge affair, of course, with around 28 million visitors expected. And it's also a chance for countries around the world to promote themselves and to promote their products. And the French pavilion is always a major feature of these fairs, as France, of course, has so much to offer. Well, this year, one of the star attractions of the French pavilion will be Les Vins d'Alsace, or wines from the Alsace region of France. And today we're lucky enough to be joined on the line by Philippe Bouvet, who is the marketing director of CIVA, which I think is the organisation that represents the many people working in that Alsace wine sector. First of all, welcome to the programme, Philippe. Maybe first of all, you could begin by telling us a bit about some of the main Alsace wines. What are their characteristics?
So thanks for the invitation first. Hi, Angela. So many things makes Alsace wine so special. I mean, we are talking about a 1,000-year-old vineyard and wine estates that have existed for over 400 years now. And some of them are working with the 15th or 16th generation in some cases. So that's really something quite exceptional. I would say that the characteristics of our wines are related to a geological feature that is absolutely unique in the world, because Alsace is the only vineyard in the whole world to possess all the types of soils on the planet: crystalline, sedimentary, volcanic, etc. And when we combine this particularity, unique in the world, with the fact of having 7 major grape varieties, that brings an incomparable richness, a style, a unique identity, which is very, very unique, and a true sincere avant-garde and pioneership in terms of respect for the environment.
Now, you know, you were pointing out that it goes through generations. You know, there is a real savoir-faire behind any winemaking, and particularly in Alsace wine. Can you give us an idea of how this is nurtured? Do fathers and mothers pass it on to their children? How much is this a generational thing? Do you have wine schools in the region? How do you keep this savoir-faire in Alsace?
I think that's the savoir-faire, which is deeply anchored in the culture, in the history, in the DNA of the region. I think it's probably one of the oldest regions in the world in winemaking, and this is something which is absolutely anchored in the families. When you go in the Alsace Road, you can see all these little villages that have been living of wines for decades, for centuries. So that's something which is really which is part of the culture of Alsace. And for us, being present at this World Expo is absolutely exceptional. That's the first time that a wine region, an entire vineyard, is going to represent France at the World Expo. So for us, it's an honor. It's quite a privilege, and it's also a great responsibility to represent France and the French wine heritage, and more generally the French art of living in Osaka.
And now, I know that, of course, being in Osaka is a great honour, as you say, just being the first time that a vineyard has been represented in that way in this exhibition. Alsace wine is especially popular in Japan, I think, isn't it? Is that to do with the marrying of this wine with their sort of cuisine?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of food and wine pairing, I would say that Alsace wines and the types, the identity of the profile of Alsace wines are typically really match perfectly with Japanese gastronomy, Japanese food, either from dry wines or more rich, or even Crémant and Pinot Noir. The marriage between our wines and their gastronomy is very strong. But I think that one of the main reasons why we have been selected actually to represent France in this World Expo is the very strong link between Alsace and Japan. That is a story of more than 160 years that began between merchants in Osaka and the textile industry in Mulhouse. So for almost 200 years now, Alsace and Japan are connecting through commerce, and who says commerce says culture, and who says culture says wines. So there's a very, very long-lasting story between Alsace and Japan, and that's also why the reason why Alsace wines have been selected to represent France in Osaka.
Now, I know it's a very short time to explain how a wine is made, if you can just run through it as quickly as you can. But particularly, I know that Alsace wine is one of the most eco-friendly. Can you tell us how that is?
Yes, absolutely. I think that Alsace is probably one of the most eco-friendly vineyard in the whole world. We are lacking of data outside of Europe, but for sure in Europe, Alsace is the most biodynamic region in the world. And in organic, the proportion of our production is 36% of our production is in organic, which is double the proportion of France, for example. So that's something which is very important in Alsace. Again, very anchored in the culture to respect the environment and to respect the nature.
Just time for one very last quick question. I know that there is a route des vins, a wine route where people can go on a trail and taste Alsace wines. If you could pick three stops they should make on that route, what would you suggest for any of our viewers thinking of coming to France?
That's a tough question. Our road is about 180 kilometers long, and with approximately 200 villages. So that's a tough question. But I would say there are very, very lovely villages close to Strasbourg, which is called the Couronne d'Or, so 15 kilometers away from Strasbourg. You can see beautiful villages. You can also go and visit Ribeauvillé, Rigvire, but also the very south of Alsace, all the castles, all these landscapes. Actually, this is a kind of a garden, and thanks to these winemakers, thanks to these wine growers who take care of the nature, they are fascinating actually this landscape in this garden. So we can thank the winemaker and the wine grower to take care of this nature.
Indeed, we can. Thank you so much, Philippe Bouvet there of CIVA, representing the industry of the Vin d'Alsace, the Alsace wines here in France. Thank you very much for that.